In today's episode, I'll be talking about my serger and my Coverstitch machine. So if you're interested in either of those machines, stay tuned. Hi, if we haven't met, my name's Claire and this is my channel Penguin and Pear, where I discuss everything dressmaking. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, click the button below, and now we'll get on with the video. So 2 weeks ago I shared with you my sewing machine journey and that seemed to go down quite well. I had filmed the Serger video as well, but it was all out of focus and so I didn't publish that, and I'm redoing that now. The footage may look a little different and that's because I'm using my phone rather than my camera, just because I don't have any front facing viewfinder and it's really difficult to see what I'm doing. After a month doing Vlogmas on my phone, I've gotten used to it. So this week I thought I would talk through my Serger and my Coverstitch machines. Now they're both very popular machines, but neither of them are necessary for sewing. However, I like a good talk as much as the next person. I'm looking at you, Alex. So first of all, I will talk you through my Serger. Now I have a Janome 8002 DX. It's a low end one. I paid £200 for this, but let's just backtrack a bit first. So when I initially decided that I wanted to have a Serger, I'd been sewing for about 2 years. I didn't have a lot of money, so I purchased a second-hand Serger from the sewing shop in Newport. I think I paid about £80 for it. It was a Toshiba. Was it Toshiba? Yeah. It was a Toshiba one. It had some red buttons on the front. I had it for a couple of months and I could not get used to it at all. I couldn't thread the thing, and when I managed to thread it, the stitches were way off and I got really frustrated. In the end, I took it back to the shop and asked for my money back. They weren't keen, but they did agree to exchange it for a new one. I just had to pay the difference. They had given me the advice that if I didn't get on with one Serger, I'm not going to get on with the next one. They're all the same. But I persevered and said, no, this machine isn't right. There's something about this machine that's not right. So they did exchange it. So I got this one, which, as I said, is a Janome 8002 DX. I've had it about 2 or 3 years now and I love it. I cannot fault it. Okay, it's not perfect. It's a low-end machine and you do get what you pay for with machines. However, it does everything I need it to do. I've never had any real problems with it. The cones you see on it are the cones that I bought with the Serger. The cones have lasted a long time. Now, I can go 2 or 3 weeks without sewing on my Serger. So, you know, I don't use it every day. But when I do use it, it's amazing. As you may have heard, threading Sergers can be a bit of a nightmare. And I know what I'm doing with this one now, and it takes me about 7 minutes to thread it. I know there's a hack going around where you tie the threads of the old thread to the new thread, but I've never managed to do that, and I've ended up spending even more time on threading if I do that. I just cut my threads and thread from scratch, and it takes me about 7 minutes. I can be quite lazy with that and stick to a neutral thread. However, I do try to change my threads as much as I can. A little tip about buying threads is that buy them from Lidl or Aldi if you're in the UK, because they cost £1.50 a cone. It's so much cheaper and the thread is just as good as any others I've used, because it can get quite expensive buying 4 cones at a time. You can normally find a deal where you get 4 cones for a tenner. So sometimes if I'm embarking on a new project and I've got a bit of spare cash, I will spend a tenner getting those threads for the colours I need, because then I've got those colours. So it is a good investment if you can afford to do that. So as I mentioned earlier, I haven't had any problems with this Serger at all. Only issue I did come across was the blade. I had some fabric, and no matter what I did on the dials, I couldn't get the fabric I couldn't get the stitches to meet the fabric at the edge. I spoke to someone else who also had this serger, and they said to move the blade. So I did that and it worked a treat. And so I moved it, which is such a simple procedure. So it was really simple and I've not had any other issues with it. I've had it 3 years. Now I was using this yesterday because I'm currently making a skirt for a friend for her birthday. It was vibrating a lot. So I just put it on a blanket and that absorbed the shakiness from it. So I'd love a £1,000 Bernina serger. Oh my god, it'd make my day. However, it's not in my price range at the moment, and what I've got works perfectly well, so I'll be sticking with that. So I thought I'd give you some top tips for when you're looking to buy a serger. First tip is kind of my last point, that expensive sergers are lovely, but they're not necessary. So if your funds are limited, just go for a low end one. There's a popular brother one, 1034D, I think it might be. I'm not sure on the name exactly, I'll put it on the screen, but it's a very popular one and it's got rave reviews, and that costs £200. If that's all you can afford, do buy that because you don't need anything more. My next tip goes on from something I mentioned about threads earlier on, and that is that threads can be expensive. When you buy your serger, buy 4 black, 4 white and 4 grey, and you're good to go. Grey is a neutral and goes with most colours, and either black or white. You don't even need black or white really. If you just had grey, that would be fine. But if you wanted black and white and grey, they're the 3 essentials, I would say. All the other colours are lovely, but no one's going to see the seams. They're inside your garment. Unless you're going to sew, unless you're going to do like a hem. I can't remember what the hem's called. No, I can't remember, but if there's a hem that you can do, and if you're going to do that, you might want serger thread that matches your garment. But otherwise, it's going to be on the inside. Don't worry about it. Don't be like me and spend money you do not need to spend. When you buy your first serger, threading it may look complicated, and it is. There's no getting around that. All I would say is spend some time practicing. Not only practicing the threading of the machine, but of the stitches and the tensions. You've got 2 needle tensions and 2 looper tensions, and you really do need to get them right. There's lots and lots of tutorials online, so do check those out. And just spend a few hours when you get your machine just playing around with it. I know it's tempting to get straight in with a garment, but if you just spend a few hours getting to know your machine when you first get it, you'll be so thankful later down the track. It will save you so much time in the long run. Excuse my cat for moaning. And also another quick tip with that is that when you've got the settings as you want them, do take a photo or note down the actual settings, because you don't want to forget those if you change them. And my last tip is sergers are not just for knits. You can sew woven with them. You can do all sorts of things. There's lots of different feet you can get. Now, I haven't bought any of the feet. I've made do with the 1 foot it comes with, but there's all sorts of feet you can get, even like bias binding feet and things. So do have a search around the internet and see what you can find that you need. So that's it for my serger. So now I thought I'd talk you through my Coverstitch machine, which I have here. I bought this Coverstitch machine about 2 years ago and I've only used it a handful of times, to be honest. Most definitely is not a necessary machine. Very nice to have, but it's by no means necessary. This machine's also a Janome. It's a Cover Pro 2000 CPX. To be honest, I wanted this machine for a long time, and now I've got it, I do not know why. I thought many times about selling this on because I don't use it enough to justify it really. However, there's something that does stop me from selling it. But if I ever had to sell any of my machines, this would be the first one to go. Basically, what a Coverstitch machine does is it sews a line of stitching. It can do 1 line of stitching, 2 lines of stitching, or 3 lines of stitching together. You usually hem with it, but you can do other functions. It's used in active wear quite a lot, and knits. It's really good because the stitches are stretchy, so they will stretch with knits and they won't break. So that's why it's so good to use with active wear and knits. You can use a double needle on your sewing machine. It's good because it mimics the stitches that you get on ready to wear items. Why anyone wants to emulate ready to wear, I don't know. I think it was Sean that was saying the other day that they bought some clothes from Marks and Spencer's, which is considered a high-end shop here in the UK, and the pattern matching was really bad. They just do not take the care that us home sewers do, I'm afraid, and probably, you know, I won't ever go back to shop bought clothes again now, I don't think. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. This machine is much, much easier to thread than a serger, I have to say. So if you open it up, there's just one thread that needs to go through the main body of the machine, and the rest is just needles on top. If you've got a serger, you won't need to buy extra threads because you'll have those threads from your serger. As I say, there's not much else to say about it. It's a lovely machine, but you know, you don't need it. Did I say that? Did I say that enough? Here's some top tips if you're looking to buy a Coverstitch machine. Any dressmaking task that you think you need this machine for, you can mimic using your sewing machine with a double needle. I haven't done this, but I would advise that you buy a clear foot for the machine, because often you'll be sewing in the round, and when you're coming back round to the beginning of your stitching, you'll need to be able to see where your stitching is to line it up. It's really difficult with the metal foot that I've got. Now, I haven't bought a clear foot, but it is something I will invest in at some point. It'll just make things much, much easier for you. You can use the stitches for decoration as well as functional hemming. So for example, I sometimes hem backwards, because on one side you get a straight lines of stitches, and on the back it's sort of zigzagged and patterned, interweaved with each other, and that looks quite pretty. So sometimes I have that on the outside and have the straight stitching on the inside, but you can use your creativity and go a little bit mad with that. Would I buy this one again? It's a good machine. I haven't had any problems with it. I would probably go for a machine that does double-sided stitching, and that just means a stronger stitch really. If I was buying again now, that's your only option. It's a pretty good option. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you some value. If so, leave a comment below and let me know which bit of advice resonated with you the most. Have you got a serger or a cover stitch? What are your opinions? Let me and everyone else know below, because the more information that everyone has when buying a serger, the better. Do you think they're necessary, or do you think you can go without them? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the red button below and the notification bell next to it, and then you'll get notified whenever I upload a new video. Like it if you like the video, and I'll be back with you next time for some more sewing talk. Bye for now.